Hi there, boys and girls. Today for story time, we're going to read Little Miss Neat by Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Neat was a very tidy person, probably the tidiest person in the world. She lived in Two Pin Cottage. It was called Two Pin Cottage because she kept it as neat as two pins. She just couldn't stand a mess. She spent all day every day polishing and dusting and cleaning and making sure that things were all in their proper place. Are you like Little Miss Neat? Do you put things back in their proper place? One morning, Little Miss Neat awoke in her bedroom at Two Pin Cottage, and she looked out of her bedroom window. It had been raining during the night, and there was a puddle in the middle of her garden path. Oh, she gasped in horror, and she rushed outside with a dust rag. She mopped up every drop of the puddle, and then she rushed inside and washed the dust rag, and then she ironed the dust rag, and then she folded the dust rag, and then she placed the dust rag very neatly back in the drawer. Everything in Two Pin Cottage had its proper place. Now this is the story about the time Little Miss Neat went on a vacation. She always went away for 1 week every summer, and this year was no different. She spent 2 weeks packing, and then she spent a whole day polishing her suitcase. And then off she went, leaving Two Pin Cottage all spick and span, and neat and tidy. It's nice to clean your house before you go away on a trip, because when you come back, it'll be all clean. Oh, I hope it doesn't get too dusty while I'm away, she thought as she closed the door behind her. But something worse than getting dusty was going to happen at Two Pin Cottage. Would you like to know what? Mr. Muddle came to visit. He had written to Little Miss Neat to tell her, but being Mr. Muddle, he somehow got into a muddle mailing the letter. Actually, what happened was that when Mr. Muddle went to mail the letter, he had the letter in one hand and a half-eaten sandwich in the other. And you can guess what happened, can't you? That's right, he mailed the sandwich. A mailed cheese sandwich. Instead of putting the letter in the post box, he put the sandwich in the post box. That's not a good idea. It'd be nice seeing Little Miss Neat again, he chuckled to himself as he walked home. This sandwich is a bit chewy, he thought. Oh dear. He was eating the letter. He thought it was the sandwich. It was the day after Little Miss Neat left that Mr. Muddle arrived. He walked up to the garden path of Two Pin Cottage and knocked at the door. No reply. Goodbye, he shouted. It should have been hello, but he isn't called Mr. Muddle for nothing. Anybody home? He called. He always messes things up. Instead of hello, he said goodbye. He pushed open the door. Oh dear, he thought as he looked around. Nobody home. Never mind, he thought. I'll make myself a cup of tea and wait for Little Miss Neat. So he went into the kitchen of Two Pin Cottage and he made himself a cup of tea and waited and waited and waited and waited. What would you do if your friend wasn't at their house? Should you go inside and make a cup of tea? No, you need to go back home. Sorry, maybe you can play again later. Then Mr. Muddle went home. Little Miss Neat stepped out of the taxi outside Two Pin Cottage. That was a lovely vacation, she said, paying the taxi driver. But it's nice to be home. She walked up the garden path and went in through the door. Not too dusty, she said to herself, looking around. I think I'll make myself a nice cup of tea before I start unpacking. But making tea after a Mr. Muddle visit isn't quite as easy as it sounds. Little Miss Neat eventually found the teapot, not in its proper place. It was under the sink. That's not where a teapot usually goes. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. It was in the refrigerator, and she eventually found the milk, not in its proper place. The milk was still in the teapot, and the tea, it was in the sugar bowl, and the sugar, it was in the milk bottle, and the cup in the oven, and the saucer in the bread box, but she couldn't find a teaspoon anywhere. No, she could not. Oh dear. It was all in the wrong place. The telephone rang, and Little Miss Neat picked it up. "Hello," she said. At the other end was Mr. Muddle, suddenly realizing he was holding the phone the wrong way. He turned it around the right way. "Goodbye," he said. Who's this?" asked Little Miss Neat. "It's you," replied Mr. Muddle. Miss Neat thought for a moment. "It's Mr. Muddle, isn't it?" she guessed. If someone calls and it doesn't make sense, it must be Mr. Muddle. "Yes," replied Mr. Muddle, getting it right for once. "And you've paid me a visit while I was away on vacation, didn't you?" she guessed again. "Yes," replied Mr. Muddle, getting it right again. "May I come and see you, now that you're back?" "I suppose so," sighed Little Miss Neat. "Goodbye." "Hello," said Mr. Muddle. Saying it the wrong way. And then he put the phone down. Little Miss Neat sighed a heavy sigh and sat down in the armchair next to the telephone. "Ouch," she said. She looked underneath the cushion. Oh dear, she sat on something. Whatever could it be? There were all her teaspoons and knives and forks. I don't think Little Miss Neat will be taking a vacation next year. Do you? The end. Little Miss Neat. I hope this week, right before Christmas, you're a little bit like Little Miss Neat. I hope you put things back in their proper place. Make sure you clean it up before Mom and Dad asks you. Show them how much older you are and how responsible. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.